for accountability for the thousands now and too many victims of police violence whose names we could not say in this short hour that we have here today. I yield now to the gentle lady from Texas, Representative Sheila Jackson Lee.
Let me thank the gentlelady from Pennsylvania for her leadership, and hopefully we have been able to share some very important thoughts. And thank you for presiding and leading us on this very important discussion. We have a Constitution. I hope that I'll be holding the Constitution in my hand in a short while. Obviously, Article 1 is the Congress. We are to represent the people of this nation. Article 2 is the executive. And Article 3 are supposed to be unfettered, unbiased, non-biased courts, the federal courts. They come in a variety of shapes and sizes all over the region, all over the nation. They're what we call Article 3 courts. Certainly there are state courts and there are county courts and there are city courts, but the federal courts are the place where we believe that there should be the infrastructure of justice, where I can come where no place else I might find justice. I can even be pro se. That means without counsel. But the laws and the responsibility of the judges clearly are to make me feel that I will be receiving justice. So it saddens me as a member of the bar and someone who, through law school, viewed the federal judiciary in the highest esteem. I was an Earl Warren training fellow. Earl Warren, the Supreme Court Justice, Republican, appointed by Eisenhower, I recall, and presided over the Brown versus Topeka Board of Education, that opened the doors for many to be able to have an education that was not segregated. And many other cases that the court presided over. But there was something unique that I believe that held our consciousness. We always felt that the courts would render truthful judgments, or that they would look for the truth, and that they would discern between the plaintiff and the defendant who was telling the truth, and they would rule in justice and the law for those who told the truth. I hold in my hand the Constitution that also includes the Declaration of Independence, where we all are created equal with certain inalienable rights of life and liberty in the pursuit of happiness. I love what the Founding Fathers said: the power under the Constitution will always be in the people, and it is entrusted for certain defined purposes. It is important to note that even though the men who have said these words were not perfect, the words epitomize who we are, that no matter who you are, what unempowerment you may have, you should have power in the courts, you should have power in this country by the very essence of the Constitution. So I watch with intensity, as a member of this body and as a senior member of the Judiciary Committee, all of the confirmation hearings where they were selecting a United States Supreme Court justice. And what struck me most of all, to the last two justices before Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, is the questioning after questioning to ask them, was Roe v. Wade sound law? Was Roe v. Wade precedent? Was Roe v. Wade, for them, a standard of the whole question of precedent that is a basic premise, tenet, basic foundation of the justice that we look to have rendered, that we can count on the Supreme Court's decision, whether it's Brown versus Topeka Board of Education. Maybe that's not solid law, that you can no longer segregate, discriminate in education at all levels, break the chains of segregation and the one-story, one-room schoolhouse with no books for the colored children, the Negro children, the black children, in that instance, which the South proceeded to try and go around by having these private schools. So your whole life is around getting justice, and Roe v. Wade was to indicate a stop to back alley abortions, women dying, being maligned and disgraced, maybe not able to have children ever again. And we were able to proceed that that was really a medical decision. And it was a decision that a woman's faith, doctor, and family would help her make. That no one could police your body, that Roe v. Wade was the law of the land. And yet, in a matter of months, I thought it was just simply seconds, puff, went Roe v. Wade, even in spite of the testimony of the two justices promoted to the Supreme Court by the former President of the United States, that over and over again in question, they said Roe v. Wade was precedent, that it was the law of the land. And they were under oath, and they did not tell the truth. Because what happened is that when the Dobbs case came, they immediately jumped to their personal views, their personal beliefs, their personal dislikes, their personal cause and crusade, and ruled abortion as defined by the Ninth Amendment, of which Roe v. Wade was based on, the right to privacy, unconstitutional. I don't even know how that could be. And states like Texas followed with the most heinous of abortion laws that you could ever imagine, criminalizing providers and criminalizing women, creating a havoc in our state. People having to flee across state lines because they could not get an honest and safe medical treatment needed that was dictated by their physician, their health care provider. Threatening health care providers, threatening Planned Parenthood, threatening clinics, misinterpreting medical procedures as abortions. And I frankly believe this MAGA extremism was the very reason why the great tsunami that was expected in the 2022 election did not happen. They did not pay attention to, in 2021, 861 women died of maternal causes in the United States. In the U.S., 2/3 of those pregnancy-related deaths are preventable, and for every pregnancy-related death, there are 70 pregnancy-related near-death experiences. It's extremely important that we tell it like it is. Women fleeing to get health care, doctors being arrested, nurses being arrested, under law because of Dobbs. And of course, women themselves being threatened. So let me just read just some headlines that came about through this Dobbs decision, where the justices would not adhere to the truth and the honesty of their testimony during confirmation hearings under oath, where they said that Roe v. Wade was precedent. 5 women sued Texas over abortion access. One of them could not get care until they got blood poison when the doctor was willing to see them. Headline, Washington Post: woman says she carried dead fetus for 2 weeks after Texas abortion ban. Is there freedom in this nation? Because of Texas abortion law, her wanted pregnancy became a medical nightmare. The truth had been taken away. Texas woman almost dies because she could not get an abortion. These are not willing activities. These are not persons who not have loving relationships with children. These are not individuals who, in fact, are, if you will, persons who want to rush for an abortion. These are individuals who have had children, who have loving children at home, but have a right with their medical provider to deal with their medical procedure. And so it is important to take note of the fact that what happens in the courts can truly save lives or cause the loss of life. So in addition to due process under the Fifth Amendment, equal protection of the law under the 14th Amendment, the right to privacy that this little book holds, the courts play a major role. And so I want to thank you, Congresswoman, for leading us in a discussion that challenges the question of truth, the question of unbiased, unfettered decisions, the questions of adherence to the Constitution. And right now we're living in a land where the precedent of Roe v. Wade, the right to choose, I never call it the right to an abortion, it is a right to choose, and the medical procedure that you choose should never be limited. How sad that we have this litany of women, only a few of the thousands impacted, because the court refused to adhere to justice and truth. We as members of Congress need to be able to be the people's representatives, and we must find a way to bring dignity and truth and justice back to our courts. I, for one, will continue to work to make sure that this is a living document, the Constitution, and that those who are poor or not can find their way to a courthouse under Article 3 and find justice, freedom, righteousness, and the opportunity to live freely without discrimination in education, to have civil rights and voting rights, and to be able to have jurisdiction over your own body as a woman, and to adhere again to a law by the Supreme Court that said in Roe v. Wade that women do have that choice. For me, it is the law of the land, and Dodd is a masquerading factor of bias and untruth. I yield back.